All right. Carson, good to see you again. Been a couple weeks since I last chatted with you. And, I think we've talked a lot about leadership attributes, qualities, positive things we've seen and some of the best leadership attributes that you see out there. But we've never really done the opposite, which is to talk about maybe like the worst leadership mistake you've ever witnessed personally. So I think we can always learn from the mistakes that we see. So what are some of the or maybe like the top examples of worst leadership mistake that you've witnessed?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And I see you got the green memo today. Um,
Yeah.
I think about that and I look back over my career and just some of the things that I've seen, and I think there's a theme to it. It's usually when managers have failed to really build that foundation of trust and transparency with their team. I remember years ago, I was a sales manager, newly minted sales manager, and I was competing with another person that got promoted at the same time as me. We got promoted on the same day, so it was natural that we kind of fell into competition. We were top reps. I was higher on the sales report, but that's neither here nor there. So we competed against each other as sales managers. And what I always found interesting about this dynamic was I spent a lot of time coaching my team. And I think one of the things that was hard for me to separate from was, I spent a lot of time. This was in a call center at the time, and just spent a lot of time sitting amidst my team. I jump on calls with them. Was constantly sitting out there with them, trying to lift them up, writing scripts with them to make them better. And we had fun. We did a lot of contests. I was very transparent with numbers. I'd send these daily celebratory reports out, kind of talking about the play-by-play of the day. But what I'd see in this other person is that they were just trying to get rid of their bottom reps, thinking that if I eliminate that lower quartile, I'm just going to lift myself up. And they could never achieve what our team achieved. They never could beat us ever on the sales report, not once. And we competed for a couple of years. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't perfect. I was a brand new manager, but I think the big difference there was this person didn't spend the time really diving in with their team, understanding them, what makes them tick, motivating them, lifting them up, and celebrating successes. Because, even in a bad month, quarter, day, year, there's always things to celebrate. And I think that's the key element from a leadership perspective is you have to find those things. Everyone on your team is not going to just magically hit the number. But it doesn't mean that they have to make drastic changes to their way of doing things in order to be successful. Sometimes it's small tweaks in their process that makes all the difference in the world. I remember once I got a rep that this other person had recruited, and they didn't want them though on their team when it came to drafting teams. And this person wound up on my team. And I made it my mission to make this person successful. Wrote them a script. In their words, we worked on this together. And their first quarter, they won Fortune 500. Just unbelievable. But I think it goes to show that if you spend time with people and you realize that not everybody's going to do the job the same way, and you're not so focused on just getting rid of people, your best bet as a leader is to spend time with people, find ways to lift them up, and figure out how you can make them better and successful. Jeff, this is a great question. What about you?
Yeah, I'd say first of all, let me just clarify that I don't normally live amongst boxes. So maybe one leadership mistake is just like showing up to one of these videos with boxes everywhere behind me, looking like I live in squalor, but I'm moving tomorrow. So just wanted to clarify that for anyone who's watching. But yeah, my answer is probably a little similar to yours. I think ultimately it comes down to how you value people or how you do not value people in this case. And early in my career, I had the good fortune of I really enjoyed actually working at this company. I left for various other reasons, but I worked at a really cool company that this company actually ended up being quite successful. It had a really successful exit well after I left, but there was a massive exodus of people over the years at this company. In fact, one of the local tech magazines had written an article at one point after I left about the various people that had once worked at this company who now worked elsewhere and like how much talent this company had at one point in time, because so many of these people had gone on to do like really impressive things, right? So one of the reasons I loved working there is because I got surrounded. Immediately, I had this community of like really very highly talented people, but a lot of them over time, for one reason or another, left or were made to feel like they weren't valued in the company. And I always look back at that and wonder what could have been if the company had retained all of this talent. Because yes, it did have a good exit, but like, could it have been $1 billion company if it was able to keep all these people? And I think the answer is yes. And I think what the major failing was is that throughout many pivots, the company, I think, didn't really look at the human element and the way that that weighs on people and how, if you change the product that somebody's selling, fundamentally their earning potential changes, right? Like you have to do things for people to make them able to, to live their life, but still want to make bets in the company, right? And so a lot of times they would have like some of these pivots, but not really accounting for like people's basic needs or like people's personal lives and how it's affecting them. It was kind of just like expected that, in a way you were like kind of like a cog in the wheel. And I think this rubbed people the wrong way. And they're like, well, I'm just going to go work somewhere else where I have a little more, grasp on, what's going to happen in the business. So I think this like lack of transparency when you kind of, and then also the kind of like treating these people like they can't handle bad news or you don't do things to acknowledge their humanity, inevitably means you're going to have a lot of turnover. And so witnessing that made me realize like you really got to invest in people, exactly like what you said. Don't just like churn and burn. And yeah, I always wonder what could have been. So that's
Yeah.
my story.
I love that story. I mean, it's been said so many times. People leave bad managers, people leave bad cultures. And what this resoundingly says is that, we as leaders, we have to be obsessed about people and process. We've got to keep that steady hand on the wheel because pivots are inevitable, change is inevitable. But if we keep people as the focal point and we keep a steady hand on the wheel amidst storms, changes, all those things, guess what? You're going to come out on the other side effective. I've left a few places before because of bad managers. And, I think the other thing is I've also gravitated toward where I've had my greatest success is gravitating toward specific leaders and people that I want to work with and for. So love the topic. Thank you, Jeff, as always, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Carson.